What's going on, guys? Pro Talk here. And when you think of Survivor Series, especially the, the iconic moments of Survivor Series, maybe people will think about um, the first Survivor Series, or they'll think about obviously the Montreal Screwjob, the most talked about Survivor Series in 1997. Yes, it wasn't probably the best card, but the thing is, the memories from that, obviously from that one match from Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels at the main event, is the most best thing that anybody can remember. And you know, um, WrestleMania is one of my favorite pay-per-views to actually is one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. But I think in recent years, Survivor Series has been kind of one of those pay-per-views. I know it's been bad recently over the last decade, but the old Survivor Series were like my favorite to watch, especially like when Survivor Series actually meant something and it wasn't actually this whole mix up together. Now, I'm not saying that every Survivor Series since the past 11 years have been bad. They've had some good Survivor Series, but I just think that they don't treat it like a big four pay per view. Like, yeah, they'll have some of the Raw and SmackDown guys go against each other, but apart from that, it's not really. I don't know. Like, it's supposed to be the biggest of the you know, it's supposed to be one of the big four, and it has been treated like one of the big four for a while, in my opinion. So Survivor Series 1997. Now, the first match of the night was the Truth Commission versus the Apocalypse. This was a really good Survivor Series match. You had the Apocalypse go over here. This was a good way to open up Survivor Series. Um, in my opinion, it was a good fast-paced match, and it got the crowd into it. Then you had the Road Dogg and the Blackjacks versus the Headbangers and the versus Headbangers and the Godwins. Now this was a good match as well. The Blackjacks get the win. We saw a young Bradshaw and a young Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. Obviously, they would team up in 1997 as the New Age Outlaws, and the Blackjacks get the win. Road Dogg was the sole survivor in the match. Then we have Kane versus Mankind. Now this is a really prime example of why in wrestling you need characters. Now, these guys weren't the best technical wrestlers or the best high flyers, but what they brought to the table was they was great characters. And in today's WWE, how many of the wrestlers today have characters? How many guys have personality? How many guys or girls have that personality that can actually elevate them to the next level? Yeah, you can say the Fiend and the Velveteen Dream, and that's probably about it. Maybe I'm not listing that many, but apart from those two guys I just mentioned, how many guys and girls had a good character on the main roster? Like, look at a Mankind and you look at a Kane character and you think, my God. And people today just think, oh, he's flips and kicks and whatever. No, flips and kicks does not get a superstar over. What gets a character, what gets a wrestler over to the next level is that they have a good character, they're connected with the crowd, they're not going, Super King! Super King! They're actually connecting with the crowd. They're actually telling the story in the ring. They're not just fucking spot fest. And this is my problem with AEW is that they they just most of the wrestlers they just want to cater to the crowd like spot 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 spot. But this is not about AEW. It's about Kane and Mankind. Um, I thought that this was a good way. This was Kane's also first match as Kane in WWE. He was obviously the dentist before that, but this is his first as a Kane character. And Kane looked really strong in this match with the best decision. They had some brawling outside the ring. Mankind elbows Kane. Near to the end of the match, Kane chokeslams Foley through the announce table, and then he gets back up again. They brawl a bit more. Nick Foley's trying to go for the Mr. Circle, but he puts in Paul Bearer's mouth, and then Kane turns around, tombstones Mick Foley, gets the win, and um, Kane wins his first match as the Kane character, and at this point it was building for the Kane Taker match, and he was only debuted 3 weeks ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago for his pay per view, and WrestleMania 14, and the rest is history with Kane. Like, I know he's done some bad gimmicks and whatever, but Kane is a legend in my opinion, one of the most underrated big guys in this business, and you know, great stuff. And then we had Stone Cold versus Owen Hart. Now this was one of my favorite feuds from 1997. How this was the best. One of my favorite feuds was Stone Cold versus Owen Hart back in 1997 because these two guys were so good. And like Owen Hart is so underrated as a wrestler and as a mic worker, in my opinion, that he should have been WWF champion. I know that they should have put the title on him back in 1994 when he faced Bret at SummerSlam, but in my opinion, Owen Hart is the most underrated guy in WWE. In my opinion, like he should have been world champion at one point. Like even at 1994, like Kevin Nash had a title, and you couldn't give it to Owen Hart. Owen Hart was one of the best heels in my opinion in the WWF. Um, but this was a quick match, and they was protecting Austin because he just came back from neck surgery, so they weren't gonna go. I have a fucking 10-star match, and this was built around that Owen Hart broke Steve Austin's neck, and he would go Owen Hart 316, just I just broke Austin's neck, and they built that up for weeks and weeks, where obviously Owen Hart was like bragging that he beat Austin. Austin came back. A few weeks before that, he wanted to get his hands on the Hart family, and then obviously he stunned Owen Hart, and then obviously that was going to Survivor Series 1997. They had a good match for the IC title. I think Owen Hart was champion at the time. Stone Cold gets the win with a stunner, and then the rest of the Hart family tried to get involved, and that's and then he just stuns all those guys. But this was a really good story, and it was just something like breaking Steve Austin's neck. I know it was a botch, but it was something like that to create a good story. And they say that make chicken shit out of chicken salad, and this was what it was here. Like they made a good story between like Steve Austin and Owen Hart, great chemistry, and I would have liked to see maybe Owen Hart maybe take the title from Steve Austin after WrestleMania 14. Like that would have been the perfect opponent for Steve Austin. But obviously, Mankind faced him at WrestleMania 14, and we all know that. Then we had another Survivor Series match. It was Ken Shamrock. It was Ken Shamrock and it was Ken Shamrock and the Road Warriors and another guy I can't remember his name versus the Nation Domination. And now this was another good thing like here when we had the birth of the Rock. The Rock he wasn't the Rock back then. He was still Rocky Maivia, but he was going like Rock sucks, Rock sucks. And then this was when Rock was slowly getting built up to becoming a mid carder. Then obviously the late 1998 he was the main guy. He was the WWF champion, and he had a good showing in this match. Shamrock gets the win. His team win. I thought it was a good match. Obviously we had the like Ken Shamrock, and I'm a big fan of Shamrock, and obviously Rock. He was getting elevated just slowly and so slow. And then this is what I like about going back and watching these pay-per-views. Like you see some of these stars getting built up slowly and slowly and slowly. Like look at today. Like you have 4 or 5 guys, maybe 4 guys who are main event guys. Like if any of those 4 guys are injured, WWE are screwed. They don't build any more people like that. Like where they slowly build people up. And I know the fans are fickle and they go, "Oh my god, like you're so slow building this guy up. Like turn him heel is boring already." Like this is the flip flop nature of these fans. Like in today's wrestling, they won't have. I'm not saying all fans, but some of the smarts and stuff they won't have slow build. Slow build is good sometimes because sometimes a wrestler ain't ready for the big time, and it's good for them to like get a couple of losses and build them up and get them used to being a main eventer and seeing how they react to the crowd, if the crowd react to those guys, and if they're actually going to move some merchandise. It's okay saying the fans, like selection of fans, are going to say like this guy is a top star, but if he's not moving merch and he's not doing better in TV ratings, and I know it's not just about just one guy, but if he's not doing those 2 things, then they're not going to push him. And if he's not a good mic worker, then that's that. And I know not everybody can be the best, like Steve Austin mic worker, but at least have a good mic. But yeah, then we have Team Canada versus Team USA. I thought this was a real good match. Team Canada gets the win. Davey Boy Smith wins with hits the ring bell on Vader for the win. He was the sole survivor for that match. And then we get to the match of the night, what I want to talk about: Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. And obviously, this was the match that they had at WrestleMania 12. Was it WrestleMania 12? Yeah, WrestleMania 12 was Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and obviously It started from that when Shawn Michaels beat Bret Hart for the WWF Championship. The boyhood dream came true. And then obviously the politics came into it. Shawn Michaels didn't want to lose a match. You had Bret Hart, who didn't like that Shawn Michaels was in the Breakfast Club with Triple H, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash, and the Clique was destroying everything backstage in the WWF back then. And Shawn Michaels was the was a real dick backstage. Back then he was like, now he's changed his life and he's doing good, but he was a real dick back then. And this was Bret Hart, like he's the wrestler and stuff like that. And then we get to like this match here. Bret Hart is rumored to be leaving for WCW, and he doesn't want to drop the belt in Montreal. So Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had the match at Survivor Series '97. They have it starts off as they start off as a decent match. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels goes to the sharpshooter, then Earl Hebner calls for the bell, and that's how the Montreal Screwjob happened because Vince was like, ring the bell. God damn it, shake it up. And that was the birth of Vince McMahon's character. Now, I know Vince was on TV, he was the announcer, he was the guy that would interview people, but he was never a heel character before that. I know in, I think another territory he was, but this was the first time that the Vince McMahon character was born. And he was, god damn it, like, shake it up. And he was born, and just an iconic moment after Bret screwed Bret. And yeah, that was it. And was it a workhorse shoot? Now, the thing was, obviously, when this was on, I was very young, so I was only like a couple. I think I was only like a year old, something like that, maybe two. I cannot remember. But I don't. I didn't watch this obviously because I was too young at the time. But when I watched it a couple years later, like when somebody told me that, I was like, "What the hell is this Montreal Screwjob?" So I watched it back. I was like, "Whoa!" And yeah, I watched it, and was it a workhorse shoot? Like Kevin Nash, people said it's a work, but I don't know. I'm saying it was a kind of a work shoot kind of thing because Earl Hebner knew about it, and stuff like that. I don't know, but the thing is, it was one of those things that changed the wrestling business, and two things were born that night. Vince McMahon's character, the greatest heel character in the world of professional wrestling, in Vince McMahon. That's the greatest heel character ever. And the Montreal Screwjob happened, and that was when the realism kicked in. That obviously that Bret was going to WCW, and he was like WCW, and that was that. And obviously the night after on Raw, Vince had a interview segment with Jim Ross, and Jim Ross was like, "Did you screw Bret?" "No, I didn't screw Bret. Bret screwed Bret." And that was it. And yes, what do you guys think about Survivor Series 1997? I know that this review's kind of probably not the best, but leave your thoughts in the comments, guys, and I'll check you guys later.